how big of an asset is to have him back in the mix, healthy, since once he got banged up in that 42-yarder last year, just kind of not the same and not
right.
replaceable.
It's a huge asset, and again, what he brings to the table is a guy that can threaten people vertically, and he's made a lot of plays for us in really multiple positions, and so getting him back healthy is not only huge for our football team. Coach Sheet, you need something?
No, I'm
your
sorry,
sunglasses, man. No, hey.
These are expensive glasses.
Hey, now, I was going to put them on for the whole interview, but I didn't, you know what I'm saying?
Gas station glasses.
But no, he's man, it's great to have him back. And again, just what he brings to the receiver room. There's a whole lot of experience that he brings of just, man, seeing defenses and understanding how the game works. And obviously the special teams aspect, being a punt returner, being a guy who's a threat back there to take one back anytime that a team is punting us the football, which is huge as well.
That's one of the things Coach Manning told me about him, that he has the most intelligent and informed questions. It's not, how do I do this? And obviously he's been around, he's in class of 2017, but he asks the questions that are just about, this quote-unquote going from good to great, just that little tweak kind of thing.
He does. He's at that point in his career where, again, he's not, hey, coach, is that route at 10 yards? No, he's asking, hey, what happens if we get this coverage on that route? Hey, what happens if the defense rotates this way? What should we do? And so, again, just he provides a wealth of knowledge and experience there that, again, you only get with reps and experience. And so I think having that in the room in and of itself has been huge for us, even going through fall camp, even battling against our defense. I think he's able to, kind of help our entire group with what really happens out there on the field.
What's keeping, or let me back up. What does Xavier have to do to have a 1,000-yard receiving season? He was 780 last year, whatever it was.
Well,
with not a very good start.
With not a very good, and less games, if I remember right. We still played less games, so I think, there's a lot of factors to being an 1,000-yard receiver. Number one, it's all the prep and all that you have to do all off season, leading yourself up to have a season like that. You got to be healthy. I think very few receivers have ever gone for 1,000 yards and not been out there just about every week. And then I think continue to create big plays down the field, which again you alluded to it, but it showed up last season as the season went on that he was a big play threat, obviously down the field, but also catching the ball short and creating yards after the catch. That's obviously one of the things that he's as good as any receiver as I've been around, is once the ball gets in his hands, he ends up getting a lot more yards than what you expect. And so I think that's what he knows he's going to bring to the table. And I think the consistency with all the other stuff, it really showed up as the year went on last year. But again, he's determined that every week out there, he wants to go out there and be the best version of himself. And I think if he does that week in and week out, whether that ends up being 1,000 yards or not, I think it'll be a really successful season for him.
Is this Joe Scates' breakout season?
You know what? I would say this about Joe. The progress that he made last season throughout the year, I was really excited about. I was really happy with as the year went on. And the other part I would say is the offseason that he's had has made me really encouraged about the point that he's at right now. A few practices in, 4 practices in or so, 5 practices in, I think he's done a really good job of coming each day with a workman's-like attitude. His demeanor has been great. He's been locked into what we're doing, and you can see that. You can see that he's older now. He's more mature. He's more experienced out there on the field. So I'm excited about where he's at right now, and I think we just got to keep going day after day, week after week. I think to say, hey, is this season going to look like this? I don't think Joe's thinking about that right now. I think he's thinking about, hey, we got workouts tomorrow morning. That needs to look good. And then the next time we're out there on the practice field, that needs to look good. And then when we have a walkthrough after that, that needs to look good. And I think that's what's helped Joe more than anything, is that he's starting to develop that mindset and that mentality. But he knows more than anything, it's got to be consistent throughout the whole season for him to be at his best.
Good percentage of his passes have gone for touchdowns so far. Are you kind of looking for more from him, maybe between the 20s?
Well, if every pass he catches is a touchdown, I would be excited about that for sure. But I think with his size and his speed, I think when he gets the ball and we gets the ball thrown to him, that's why so many big plays have been made, is because, you know, he presents problems for defensive backs because of how fast he can run, because of how big he is. And again, yes, we want to see consistency in every other realm, but I'll tell you what, Joe's one of the best blockers we have, one of the most physical people that we have on the field too. He's also, as many touchdowns as he created on the perimeter, making plays down the field, he's also created some touchdowns by being physical with a corner. You know, I think about Texas Tech down in that opposite end zone, and Breece has a huge run, you know, for about a 20-yard touchdown or something like that, and you know, Joe's walking his defensive back to the sideline. And so I think that's what you've seen from Joe, and I think the consistency that he's had so far this fall will allow him to do even more of that, you know, this season.
What kind of athlete is Jaylen Noel?
A good one. A really good one. Better than me. You know, it's funny, I go back with Jaylen a long ways, him being from Kansas City, and I can remember like it was yesterday seeing him in an open gym at his high school his freshman year, and Jaylen was like really small then and skinny and not as tall as he is now, and I saw him like jump off 2 feet and dunk a basketball with some relative ease, and you know, kind of knew he was a special athlete then, and then we had him for 2 years in camp and got to see his athletic ability, again, not only in one-on-ones and running routes, but, you know, even a triple broad jump score that was probably as good as any person that we've had in our camp. And so he's a tremendous athlete, and again, it allows him to, again, on the field, because of who he is from the mental side, it allows him to be a really good player even at a young age.
Is he more of an inside or an outside type of guy, you think?
You know, it's a great question, and even I think the more that you see him, the more you get to know him. I do think he has the ability to really be both. You know, obviously he's just what he is right now is a freshman receiver, so he's trying to learn a lot. There's a lot of information that he's trying to get figured out. But I think long term, you know, to box him to one position or another, man, he's able to do some really good things on the inside. He's able to play on the outside as well. And honestly, him being here in the spring allowed us to kind of play around with both of those things and move not only him but other guys around and really see those guys. But he's a guy that, I'll be honest, like probably has the ability to do either.
Coach Rashid talked about the special teams being a way for defensive linemen to get on the field early. Is special teams an option for Jaylen as a returner at all?
For sure. It's definitely an option, and you're right. I mean, it's something that we emphasize in the receiver room that, you know, we feel like, you talk about athleticism, we feel like we should be the most athletic group on the entire football team. And so if that's the case, we've got to contribute in special teams. And, yeah, a guy like Jaylen who played on special teams, who returned in high school, I think can help us there. Man, I think he can help us in a lot of different ways because he's a good blocker, because he's good. He has great get-off coming after the ball, trying to go and get punts already. He can return the ball. So he does provide you with another weapon that I think that we can use on special teams. And to be honest, a lot of our freshmen are that way. You got some guys, you know, Deion Silas, Eli Sanders, some guys who can really run. Now you got some older guys that really have an opportunity to do that as well. Breece Hall, Xavier Hutchinson, who they want another touch as well on special teams. So there's some heavy competition back there right now. But I really like where those young guys are at and how hard that they've pushed to be guys that we can utilize on special teams.
How unique is it that Breece Hall wants to be one of those guys returning kicks? Because, I mean, he's a star running back. He could just be
It's a great point.
And be a running back.
And I think the more that you're around Breece, the more that you would feel like it doesn't surprise us at this point. I think Breece isn't the typical, you know, you just said it, the typical starting running back, the typical guy who's been in the backfield that long and says, hey, this is my job, this is my role, and this is what I do. I think Breece is hungry to do more. He's hungry to learn more. And I think that's something that he approached Coach Campbell with this offseason is that, man, if that's another way that he can help the football team, that's what he's looking to do. And so I don't think we would yet put him as a up back on punt, you know, but I think to get the ball in his hands again on the return game is a great opportunity for him to just display what he does best with the ball in his hands.
What are the early reviews on Eli Sanders so far?
You know, I really liked what Eli did this summer when he came in as far as the weight room goes. I think the first review was from Coach Andrews and saying that, man, he really liked his development and his demeanor in the weight room. And I think when you can start there and when you can develop there, it gives you a chance when you run out on the field in practice that you can do it there as well. And so I think I've really liked where he's at. Again, he's still got a lot of things, a lot of information that's coming in right now. But, has already made some big plays for us. Has already done, again, you said it earlier, but a good job on special teams. But I really like where Eli's at. I really see him as a guy that, man, as he continues to develop, as he continues to understand the offense, he's a guy who can really help us out. And honestly is dynamic with the ball in his hands.
And you used 3 or 4 guys with Kene, Johnny Lang before he moved, and then Jirehl and Breece. Is it a deal where you're preparing Eli to play a significant role this season?
Yeah, we said it the other day, but we feel like right now we have as many guys in the room that we would feel confident about running the football. And if I'm talking about just that alone, running the football, we would feel really confident with about 5 guys back there right now. You didn't mention it, but Rory Wallen really has had a good first 5 days running the football. Now, when it comes to all the other stuff, pass pro, all the motions and shifts that we do, that's where we know that, man, the freshmen are going to have a lot of work to do to get there. Now, it's been interesting for a freshman walking in right now. You've got so much experience, and I think we're able to go so fast as an offense, and we already have so much that's installed already. We said at the start of camp, install's kind of over. Like we met in the spring and we got a lot of stuff in that, man, we're kind of hitting the ground running. So I think for those freshmen, it's been a lot to take in, but I think they've handled themselves really well and you feel like, man, and by 3 weeks from right now, they're going to be in a really good spot going into the season.
As one of the main recruiters, what do you tell recruits if they would ask, well, tell me what conference Iowa State's going to be in and what's in it, what's in it for me? Don't even know what conference
yeah.
be in when they're down the road.
Yeah, and and it's a question that's come up, and the honest truth is what we've said to them is, man, we feel like whatever the future looks like for us, we've put ourselves in really good position to go and compete with whoever's on our schedule. And I would say that, and you'd probably have to ask some other coaches at some other schools, but I think Iowa State would be one of the schools that, man, you don't at this point, man, it's man, Iowa State, do I want to go and play those guys? Do I want those guys? And so we've now put that out there, I guess, for display on the football field. And I think the way that we've recruited the athletes that we've got, in our building now and the athletes that are coming in the future is going to give us a really good chance to compete with whoever is on our schedule. Again, what that looks like, we don't know. And we also don't have very much control of, what that will look like. But I can tell you what, like with where this program has built itself to right now, I think the future is really bright. And so, and again, I think as much as anything, when you talk to recruits, and obviously it does come up, but as much as anything, they want to know that, they know that there's going to be 12 teams on the schedule. They're going to have a chance to play in the postseason, and even now with what it looks like with the playoff and where that's moving, they know that they're going to have a chance. A lot of people are going to have a chance to compete for it all. And I think as much as anything right now, people feel like, man, that's a school that I feel like I'd have a shot to go and compete for it all. And I'd like to do it with those players and those coaches. That's how we feel.
What's Jirehl Brock's got the word position look like? What's his role going to look like this year? There we go.
Yeah. I think Jirehl has put himself in position to have a really exciting football season, and I think he took the role. It's just like anything. If you're given something, what do you do with that responsibility? What do you do with the role that you've received already? And I think he took that and he grabbed it by the horns and took advantage of opportunities last year. And I see him doing that this offseason. I thought this last weekend, what are we today, on Wednesday? It was Sunday when our last bigger practice, and I thought he had one of his best practices he's had since he's been here. And so I think, again, he continues to do that. He continues to get opportunities and to make the most of them. And so I'm excited about where he's at. I'm excited about the offseason that he's had in the weight room. But the way he's practicing right now, man, it's hard to say exactly what that role is going to look like. But, shoot, I think he's excited. I think we're all excited as coaches as well.
Coach Rashid was talking about how the the entire offensive line group has made his group better. For you guys, like, having to go up against Mike Rose and Jake Hummel and Ryan Vance and those defensive backs on a day-to-day basis, how much does that help improve that group?
It's huge, sitting there and, I think on the perimeter with the receivers having to go against, Anthony Johnson, Greg Eisworth, Daytron Young, Isheem Young, like those guys are really good football players and they really, really care about the game. And so they study their stuff. They're on it. If we make one move one day, the next day they're on that move. And so it forces you to grow. It forces you to get better. You just said it, those guys in the box, those linebackers, those defensive linemen, and the style of defense that we play. It's a hard defense to go against in practice. Not only, number one, do they play really hard, but there's bodies everywhere. You're trying to figure out coverages and you're trying to figure out people. And shoot, I felt like he had a kind of good beat on him, as fall camp ended last fall, and then you see him again, and it's like, man, this looks all new, and they're doing stuff that we haven't even seen before. So it forces you as a coach and as a player to really bring your best to the table every day. And we hope to do the same thing. That's always our goal offensively, is that, man, we hope to be the most difficult offense that our defense has to go against. And so, we try to, mess with them with formations, with personnels, motions. I mean, we try to throw it all at them, but those guys do a pretty good job adjusting. They got some experience, and it's caused our whole team, rising tide raises all boats. That's really what goes on, on the practice field in fall camp for us.
You mentioned feeling good about 5 guys running the ball. For Dion specifically, what does he kind of bring to the room, and for his role this fall, what do you kind of anticipate that looking like?
Yeah, Dion's one of those 5 guys that really, on the field at times, you can't tell Dion this, but people feel like we're playing with 10 because they can't see him back there, but Dion's a physical back. Like, he is not afraid to lower his shoulder and get yards. I think we're all trying to figure out how fast Dion is, and, Jaylen and him were at my house a couple weeks back and saying who would win in a race, and Jaylen was pretty confident. But Dion, I tell you what, out there on the field, he can move pretty darn fast. And so really liked where he's at, really liked what he's doing with the football. And he does present something that's different just because he does hide himself in there, but I wouldn't say he's a small back. He runs big with the ball in his hands. Even today, man, he caught a seam and, he lowered his shoulder and ended up getting a whole lot more yards than what we expected. So I think that part with Dion has been really good so far. And again, talking about the growth as a freshman, he's still got a lot of stuff, a lot of new things on his plate, but we're excited about where he's at right now.
You mentioned the speed. Fun question, but who do you think's the fastest one between the wide receiver and the running back room? You pick.
What type of race?
It's just 240 because that's simple.
Simple, but it's difficult, because if you would have said, now there's some word on the street that in a 20-yard race, now again, most of them got this tested, that Breece Hall won the 20. Now again, I don't know all the numbers. You have to go ask Coach Andrews for that. And asking Coach Andrews for that, you got to watch yourself now. Like, come in there with some protection on you, because he might throw a left hook at you. But rumor has it that that's what now you go out to 100 yards, and Joe Scates, he's going to feel pretty confident that he could get anybody in that. And so 40 yards is in between, so there's a lot of other guys competing for it. I'll let you do the math.
So you're no longer in that?
Good question. A few years ago, I said I could, when Darren Wilson got here, yeah. I woke up last night and my knee was like throbbing just for no reason. You know what I mean? And just, so I'd have to probably spend an off season with Coach Andrews to get back into race. That's the truth.
You mentioned Darren Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
What's up with him? What are you looking for?
Yeah, Darren is doing really good. I was just talking to Mike Green on the way down here about Darren, and he was a guy that honestly battled through injury last year without really saying much and without really making a big deal of it, and it was probably a harder season on him physically than what even I realized as a coach, and even what we realized after the fact. And so Darren's a tough player. He really, really cares about football. He really, really cares about perfecting his craft. And he's done a really good job, I think, coming out here this off season, and again, getting his body back together, getting his body back where he's 100%. And I think right where he is now, honestly, he's done a really good job in these first 5 days. Darren is a competitive person. I can't emphasize that enough. I was joking with him today because, again, my job is to coach, and we were talking about something on the sideline, and it was a good conversation. And But Darren's competitive enough in his own mind that he wants to get it right every single time. So he's mad at himself for making a mistake, and that's the type of people you like to surround yourself with as a coach. And so I like where Darren's at. He is really fast, and he is really physical. You know, he's one of those guys that, man, I tell you what, like him on the perimeter blocking guys, he's a force to be reckoned with out there. And so, again, excited about the first 5 days. Got to keep it going.
Thanks, Coach.